Ophelia has gone mad. It's interesting that her real madness may be a result of Hamlet's fake madness. Horatio brings Ophelia's plight to the attention of Gertrude, but she's not eager to see Ophelia. But Horatio presses. Let her come in. To my sick soul, as sin's true nature is, each toy seems prologue to some great amiss. So full of artless jealousy as guilt, it spills itself in fearing to be spilt. Think about that quote for a while. Ophelia enters and she sings snatches of songs. Many of them seem to be about fathers and others are about lovers. Here's one of those. Tomorrow is St. Valentine's Day. All in the morning betime, and I a maid at your window to be your Valentine. Then up he rose, and donned his clothes, and dopped the chamber door, let in a maid that out a maid, never departed more. This is not the only song that she sings on the topic of loss of virginity. These passages suggest that Ophelia and Hamlet were likely intimately involved before the events that begin Act 1. King Claudius comes in and diagnoses the cause of her lunacy to be the death of her father. He also tells Gertrude that Laertes is heading back, and that he's really angry and suspicious about his father's death, given that the funeral was so quick and hush-hush. Instead of the words hush-hush, he uses the words hugger-mugger. Then Laertes bursts in at the head of a mob whom he dismisses, and then they go off quietly. He's fuming mad and asks how come his father is dead. I'll not be juggled with to hell allegiance. Let come what comes, only I'll be revenged most thoroughly for my father. Now what you are supposed to notice here is how unlike Hamlet Laertes is. To hell with my vows and to hell with me, I don't care, someone is going to die real fast. Claudius asks him if he's at all interested in who he's killing, enemies as well as friends. None but enemies. Will you know them then? To his good friends thus wide I'll ope my arms, and like the kind life-rending pelican repass them with my blood. Why now you speak like a good child and a true gentleman, that I am guiltless of your father's death, and am most sensible in grief for it. I shall as level to your judgment pierce, as day does to your eye. Ophelia walks in and she passes out flowers to everyone. Each flower means something. Rosemary, remembrance; pansies, thoughts of love; fennel, flattery; columbines, infidelity and marriage; rue, repentance; daisies symbolize false promises of love; and violets, faithfulness or fragility, or the brevity of life, or mortality. Back to that theme again. You can see that Ophelia seems to be communicating a few things through these symbols. The scene ends with the king asking Laertes to come back later to receive a full briefing on who is responsible for his father's death. Claudius goes so far as to say that he will give Laertes the kingdom if he, Claudius, is responsible. He hints, not so subtly, that he will help Laertes toward his revenge. Now scene 6. This scene is very short. Horatio is reading a letter that he just received from Hamlet. Hamlet's back in Denmark. He has asked Horatio to make it possible for some guys to be able to deliver a letter to Claudius. He also explains briefly what happened. A few days out on the journey toward England, his ship was attacked by pirates. In the skirmish, he, Hamlet, ended up on the pirates' boat. And then the boats parted. The one heading to England continues on to England. And Hamlet, on the pirates' boat, makes friends with the pirates. And they become such good friends that they willingly take him back to Denmark. So that's cool. He says that he's got much to tell about Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, and he'll tell Horatio about that later. And now scene 7. This is the meeting between Laertes and Claudius in which the king is to explain what happened regarding the death of Polonius. The king starts by saying that Laertes should look upon him as a friend, and that he was the target of the assassination attempt. Okay, but Laertes asked the king why he didn't proceed against Hamlet, do more punishing. Oh, for 2 special reasons, which may to you perhaps seem much unsinewed, but yet to me they are strong. The queen his mother lives almost by his looks, and for myself, my virtue or my plague, be it either which, she's so conjunctive to my life and soul, that as the star moves not but in his sphere, I could not but by her. The other motive, why to a public count I might not go, is the great love that general gender bear him, who dipping all his faults in their affection, would like the spring that turneth wood to stone, convert his gyves to graces, so that my arrows too slightly timbered for so loud a wind, would have reverted to my bow again, and not where I had aimed them. He claims that there are 2 reasons. One, because he loves the queen so much and she loves Hamlet so much that he just couldn't bring himself to hurt her. The second reason is that Hamlet is very popular with the general public. This is the politician talking now, concerned about public opinion. At least his second excuse is a little more honest. Don't you love the metaphor in the end? He says that too light are his arrows of accusation and punishment. The winds of popularity would blow the arrow back at him. As the two of them go on speaking of revenge, a messenger comes in with a letter, that one from Hamlet. The letter basically says, "I'm back in Denmark and I will swing by to see you tomorrow." Laertes is very excited that Hamlet is here. He wants to kill him. Of course, Claudius is good with this approach. If Laertes kills Hamlet, then Hamlet will be dead, and Claudius won't have to take any of the blame. Couldn't be more perfect. So Claudius starts scheming. He says that we need to set up a situation where Hamlet dies, but it looks like an accident. Laertes says, "The rather if you could devise it so that I might be the organ." Laertes says that he wants to be directly involved in this accident. Claudius comes up with a plan where Laertes and Hamlet will have a sword fight. One of those friendly dueling kind. But somehow, accidentally, there will be an unblunted sword in the mix that Laertes will accidentally take. And so they will do normal sword fighting stuff, and Laertes will accidentally stick it into Hamlet. And done. Hey, who put this real sword in the box with the practice swords? In the middle of all this plotting, Claudius asks Laertes this question. "Laertes, was your father dear to you? Or are you like a painting of a sorrow, a face without a heart? Why ask you this? Not that I think you did not love your father, but that I know love is begun by time, and that I see in passages of proof. Time qualifies the spark and fire of it. There lives within the very flame of love a kind of wick or snuff that will abate it. And nothing is at a like goodness still, for goodness growing to a pleurisy dies in his own too much, that we should do when we would. For this wood changes, and hath abatements and delays as many as there are tongues, our hands, our accidents. And then this should is like a spendthrift sigh, that hurts by easing. But to the quick of the ulcer, Hamlet comes back, what would you undertake? To show yourself your father's son indeed, more than in words, to cut his throat in the church." So 2 things about this. Let's do the last one first. Claudius asks Laertes, what would you be willing to do to show that you loved your father? And Laertes' response is to cut his throat in the church. In that day, killing someone in the church was a really bad thing to do. It guarantees that you would go straight to hell, and stay there. Notice how Laertes is so different from Hamlet. Now the first thing, Claudius explains that a lot of the time, sons don't stay very angry after someone kills their father, and then they don't end up doing anything. He seems to imply that this is a sign of weakness and a lack of love. And this is exactly the opposite of what Claudius says to Hamlet on this exact same subject in Act 1, Scene 2, when he basically told Hamlet that he should just get over his father's death. I think we call that two-faced. Then they are back to the planning. Claudius is pretty sure that Hamlet won't notice the presence of that real sword, because Hamlet, most generous and free from all contriving, will not peruse the foils, so that with ease or with a little shuffling you may choose a sword unbaited, and in a passive practice requite him to your father. I will do it, and for that purpose I'll anoint my sword. I bought an unction of a mountebank, so mortal that but dip a knife in it where it draws blood, no cataplasm so rare, collected from all the simples that have virtue under the moon, can save the thing from death that is but scratched withal. I'll touch my point with this contagion that if I gall him slightly, it will be death. Laertes likes the plan and then improves upon it. He happens to have an unction that is so poisonous that just a pinprick will cause instant death, and he says he's going to smear the tip of his sword with that stuff. And then Hamlet double dies. But then the king has an idea to triple kill Hamlet. Let's further think on this. This project should have a back or second that might hold if it should blast in proof. Soft, let me see. We'll make a solemn wager on your cunnings, with hat when in your motion you are hot and dry, as make your bouts more violent to that end, and that he calls for drink, I'll have prepared him a chalice for the nonce whereon but sipping, if he by chance escape your venom stuck. Our purpose may hold there. You should fight Hamlet really hard so he gets all hot and sweaty, and then when he gets really thirsty and asks for something to drink, I'll give him a drink that has even more poison in it, so when he drinks it he'll die. They are feeling pretty good about how Hamlet doesn't stand a chance against all this clever plotting, and then the queen comes in. She simply announces that Ophelia is drowned. They ask for some details, and she says this. There is a willow grows aslant a brook, that shows his hoar leaves in the glassy stream. There with fantastic garlands did she come, of crowflowers, nettles, daisies, and long purples that liberal shepherds give a grosser name. But our cold maids do dead men's fingers call them. There on the pendant boughs her coronet weeds, clamoring to hang, an envious sliver broke, when down her weedy trophies and herself fell in the weeping brook, clothes spread wide, and mermaid-like awhile they bore her up, which time she chanted snatches of old tunes, as one incapable of her own distress, or like a creature native and imbued upon that element. But long it could not be, till that her garments, heavy with their drink, pulled the poor wretch from her melodious lay to muddy death. That's really sad, but isn't that a beautiful passage? Anyway, this really hits Laertes, and he tries not to cry, but he can't help it, and then he exits, and the king and queen follow him out. And that's the end of Act 4. Thank you, and we will see you in Act 5.